Hi, everyone. We are here live for week 7 of the Intentional Parenting Online Summit. And today you will have myself and my husband, Antonio McKoy, yours truly. We co founded the Shield Mentor Program in 2008. And we are in the same home in different rooms, just trying to bring this to you. So I hope that you will get a lot out of today. We're going to talk about career exploration. So this is what we normally cover with our youth as well. And I think it's equally important to cover with our parents who are joining us. But before we get started, I'm going to introduce to some of you who may not already know my husband, his background. He has an MPA, and for the last 10 years, Antonio McKoy has dedicated his career to improving educational and job opportunities to help marginalized communities. He has a degree in public policy and African American studies from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, as well as a Master of Public Administration degree from Penn State University. During his career in the public sector, Antonio has worked in various leadership positions for community based nonprofits, local municipal government, and federal government. Antonio's success comes through developing community level partnerships around the common cause of empowering others to change their lives and equipping them to become a positive force for changing in their communities. Through his experience and work with federally funded grants, Antonio has had the privilege of working with and training a variety of community based organizations and initiatives focused on providing training opportunities to underrepresented populations. He has a passion for assisting organizations' strategies and for bettering our communities. Most importantly, though, he also has a passion for helping families like yours. So I'm happy to introduce my husband today to join this talk. I think it's suitable for what we're going to do today. And I just want to open up if you want to say anything else by way of introduction.
No, I think that was great. It's always interesting to sit and hear kind of the bio readout, but I think it does encompass pretty much everything in terms of an introduction for me, in terms of that passion to really help empower families and individuals to live their best lives, so to speak, and especially because of the work that we're doing with the Shield Mentor Program. I really do appreciate just having the opportunity to be on the call today, and particularly with this topic of career exploration. Because anyone who I've had the opportunity to speak with, definitely I've had my own kind of path, so to speak, as far as a career exploration is concerned. So it's quite fortuitous that that actually would really encompass the bulk of the work that I do now in terms of helping others as they traverse that their own career pathway. So no, just thank you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation where it goes today.
All right, great. I'm glad to have you. So, one of the things that I've been doing lately is working with a career coach. And interestingly, the career coach has had me sit down and think about what I wanted to be at 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20, 25, and there, and so on and so on. And then sort of what do the jobs that I have laid out for myself have in common? So I thought that this would be a great way for us to start our talk out with those who are listening in, just to sort of know a little bit more about you and I and the things that we thought before we met each other, and sort of talk through where we are today, and just our vision for our family and why we chose the career paths that we have chosen. So let's go through this activity together, shall we? What did you
Awesome.
want to be at 5 years old?
You know, at 5 years old, I wanted to be a firefighter. It was really, I think we had a career day in elementary school or kindergarten, and I was really struck by the big red fire engine. So I wanted to be a firefighter.
Fair. So at 5 years old, I wanted to be a teacher. I think many children sort of look up to their teachers, and I think I was just awestruck by my kindergarten teacher, so why not be a teacher? So by 10, I think I still felt about the same. What about you, 10 years old?
No, it's interesting enough because around 10, I actually started to wanting to be a teacher. I had a teacher in the first grade who actually had a huge impact on my life and even the work that I've been able to do up to now. In addition to the fact that she had taught not only several of my cousins, but actually a couple of my uncles too. So she was very impactful, Miss Wilson, back in 10th grade. I mean, first grade rather. So I was wanting to follow in her path, so to speak, at that point.
Great. Next up, 15 years old. By then, I wanted to be a business owner. I attribute that to my parents who taught us about entrepreneurship really early on. And my mother imparted into me what a chief executive officer was. Now that I'm older, I realize I had no idea exactly what she was talking about, but I pretty much went along with what my parents told me that I should do and started to think in that way. So, what about you?
At 15, for me, around that time, I actually started wanting to become a JAG officer in the military. So, more or less a military lawyer. And for me, anyone who knows my family, we have a tradition, so to speak, of military service
Hmm.
in my family. So, around that time, I was actually exploring the option or the possibility of going into the military myself via that legal profession.
All right, great. Fair. By 20, I wanted to be a YMCA director, maybe a marketing director specifically, because by then I was pursuing my college degree, getting my bachelor's in marketing, and I had already started working at the Y as a counselor. And I thought the next big move for me would be to become the marketing director. What about you?
At 20, I actually was still wanting to be a lawyer, not necessarily in the military at that point, but was still looking at the legal profession as a career pathway.
Awesome. All right. So moving on into our marriage, even in early adulthood. By 25, I wanted to be a webmaster, web administrator, or work in information technology. And this came to me as a total surprise because it was not anything remotely in my mind that I would end up doing professionally. However, while I was working at Bennett College as a admin, no less, I was approached with this project where I could help build out a website. And at that time, the only thing I knew to do was pursue a certification and obtain my webmaster's degree, which that's exactly what I did. And upon learning more about the profession, I realized I had the aptitude to learn it and it was fun. So I went in that path. What about you?
Well, like you said, 25 at that point, I think we were already married or married a year or so. And so for me, that's when, once again, for me, career pathwise wise, I don't stick to anything too long, at least early on. So by 25, I was working in corporate America, but actually at that point, the desire to work in education policy kind of started to take hold. So that's where I was around 25, wanting to get into education for the sake of wanting to help improve the educational outcomes for many of the families that we serve and many of the youth that we serve with the Shield program, but just for youth in general, in terms of wanting to decrease achievement gaps and really help in whatever way I could in terms of being an advocate for some of our marginalized populations as it relates to education and educational opportunities.
So, Antonio, I'm going to stop us right there. I'm going to put a pin in it right now. And I want us to walk down memory lane with those who are listening today because we both know as easily as that rolled out of our mouths that none of it was easy. Can you agree?
I can, if we want to, kind of get into the details. I think one of the things that you'll notice, and particularly when it's interesting that you even, said, "Hey, let's do this activity," because just walking down even memory lane for me, and just understanding that for my career, in terms of my own career goals, it has not been a straight path, but it was winding. It was one where it's, right now, because of different external factors, I may have a desire to do this, and you come back 5 years later and it's changed somewhat. But specifically at that 25-year mark, whenever I the bug to get into education policy hit, just to talk about what it was, because like I said, at that point, I was working in corporate America, and had no experience in anything policy related, anything education related, really, besides going to school myself. But realizing, one day at work, realizing that there's a bigger, need, and there's a bigger role for me to play. And I remember coming home and having a conversation with you about, hey, I feel that I'm being drawn or led to go back to school
Mhm.
and to take up this whole public policy thing that I had never heard about, didn't know what it was exactly, but knew that there had to be a conversation, there had to be some work that would allow me to really help to improve the life outcomes, for our marginalized populations. Many of the students that I remember going to school with, you and I both going to school with, because we went to school together, for those that know our story.
Yeah.
So just thinking about those students that we went to school with, wanting to do the things necessary, or find a way to be able to be of help to them. So uh, that started us down a path of about 3 years, where I actually did go back to school. I went back to UNC, and majored, took up public policy, focusing in education policy, and that really is what put me on a path, to doing a lot of the work that I've been able to do now.
I want to paint the picture even better for our listeners who are here. At that time, we were married about a year, right? Or two, somewhere in between. And we had our son by that point, and he was just this baby in our arms. And I think when you have a baby or a child, you really start to think intensely about what it is you truly want in life, and it's like your life flashes before your eyes, and you see this perfect world where you're doing all the right things, right? And we really became intentional right then and there, I believe, about what we wanted. Although it wasn't easy, although we made a tremendous level of sacrifices, many of them. I think just being in that place where we were willing to dig in deeper and really think about the kind of family that we wanted to raise helped tremendously at that time. And for me, I'll say my profession found me. I had not an inkling or idea that I would end up working in the information technology profession, but I did realize really early on that it was a lucrative profession to have, that I could maintain a salary conducive for the lifestyle that I wanted or that we wanted as a family. So I want to make that very clear, so that those who are listening sort of understand, from that point why, Antonio and I started to really just hone in and begin to pave the way for our family to be where we want it to be career wise. I think this is a very important conversation to have. We didn't see eye to eye all the time. I just want to be real about that. It wasn't like Antonio approached me to say, "Hey, I want to pursue my degree," and I was like, "Yeah, sure, go on right ahead." There were a lot of decisions that we had to make about making that possible, especially since we lived in Greensboro. And he would travel to Chapel Hill every day. That's dedication, guys. That's keeping your family at the forefront of everything that you do. And I think I just I have to commend Antonio as my husband, and I'm proud of him for the effort and the foresight that he had to pave the way and go and pursue his degree in order to do that. What we didn't mention though is that at the same exact time I was pursuing my master's degree.
Right.
I was traveling up and down the highway, going to High Point University to get my degree in nonprofit management, because guess what? In addition to all of that, I was running the nonprofit Shield Mentor program that we co-founded together. So we're just two crazy people doing crazy things in this world, and I just want to share a little bit of our stories with you. So by the age 30, I knew by then that I wanted to continue to work up the ranks and become the director of web services somewhere. I did not realize that until last year in November. So it took me a very long time to actually get into a director role. What about you?
So around 30, that's when, obviously for me, I was on the policy track at that point, still with the desire to work in education policy, but wanting to fine tune that in terms of working federal government, to find ways to be a part of that conversation, on a much larger scale.
Right. Awesome. And we continued to grow. By the age of 35, which is not many years away from my actual age, I just continued to have these grandiose visions for myself. Some things that I still have not obtained in life. So I continue to want to grow and develop. So, some things that I still have on my list is to work for a Fortune 500 company, to join the C suite, and to continue down my career path in digital technology, to become, to be in the digital marketing space, actually. So, to marry some of my interests in marketing and technology together. And of course, I'll continue to run my nonprofit. What about you?
So 35 for me is interesting because at that point, obviously federal government was a continued goal, and thankfully at that point, I actually had accomplished it. The only change was instead of me working education policy only, I had the opportunity to couple my passion for education policy with workforce development as well, and that was kind of my entry into federal service. So at that point, by 35, I was actually doing what I wanted to be doing and having some of the impact, not necessarily all, but some of the impact that I had desired once I started down this path in terms of being in education policy.
Awesome. Great. The last age that I was asked to do this activity for was age 40. So apparently by then we should have figured everything out. We'll see. My ultimate dream, I'm not just thinking about 40, I'm actually thinking like when I am like living my dream and exactly where I want to be. I just want to be a faculty member on someone's campus while running my nonprofit, telling all of the younger students all the success that I've had in running my own business and navigating life in the way that I have been able to at that point. So, what about you?
So that's interesting enough. I think this is another one of those points where our career goals intersect, because as you know, ultimately for that ultimate goal for me is to be a faculty member as well on a university campus. Because for me, I think particularly with the type of work that I do, when I think about public policy and working in government and what have you, I think there are a lot of things that come down the pipe that impact our community, but we don't have a lot of individuals who are doing the work that represent the community, or who are reflective of the community. So for me, that ultimate goal, at this point, once I've completed federal service and all of that. So for me, I look at 40, but realizing that's not too far away, kind of just like 40 plus.
Right.
I look at it as hopefully being on a university campus somewhere, training others to do this work in public policy that I've been blessed to do for the last 10 plus years.
Awesome, great. So I'm looking forward to unlocking all of our passions and dreams together. It's been a ride so far, and it's really great just to have a supportive husband. You definitely have supported me along my way, and I really appreciate the way that, in particular, at this particular time, you're allowing me to run my nonprofit full time and step away from the hustle and bustle of the full time job. So I really appreciate that, and I'm going to be able to put that energy into my passion work for a little while I continue to grow and develop in the areas that I need to develop in order to re-enter the workforce, and hopefully landing a position in the C-suite. All right, so the next activity that my career coach had me do was think about what these jobs have in common. For me, what I found to be in common with what I laid out for myself is I knew I wanted to lead, so that's why I wanted to own a business because I felt that I had the ability to lead. Also, serving, the because I wanted to be a teacher and work in the nonprofit sector. I feel like I have a heart of service, and I really believe in servant leadership as well. So those two really come together in a way where I'm able to serve the community, serve my mentors, serve the youth that I serve, and all of that. And then too, I enjoy managing. I enjoy director jobs where I can manage projects, I can manage people, and all of that. So, what did your jobs have in common for you?
No, so I think there's a lot of similarities there. Definitely leadership, definitely servant leadership and things of that nature. But also the idea of being that change agent. Someone who's having not only a high value in the community, but also having a high impact as well. With the work that that we both desired to do, definitely the work that I've desired to do, and the work that we've both been able to do. I think there's some similarities there in terms of the type of roles that I saw myself in from five plus. So no, I think for me, if I, the most important is that impact, that community impact piece. I think that was prevalent in the majority of the positions I saw myself in.
Awesome, great. So, this is the part where I turn it over to you because in your profession, you are helping, I'll say, young adults. And in case you all don't know, young adults, I think, what is the age range for young
That's
adults?
16 to 24.
Right. So, thinking about that population and the work that you're doing to support nonprofit organizations who are helping young people who may be headed down the wrong path or just a destructive path, really align themselves so that they can unlock their dream jobs and their careers, in a way where normally they wouldn't have that opportunity. So, for the work that you do, can you share a little bit about how you got into it and
Sure.
some of the things that I think families can keep in mind if you're struggling? Because not everyone has like this easy road to unlock our dreams and our passions. It takes a lot of work, and we know
Right.
that, right? We know that putting in the work. So, can you talk a little bit about where a family can start if they're having those challenges and how your work really correlates with the work that we're wanting to do through Shield?
Of course. So first and foremost, before I even jump into that conversation, it's related still. I think it is important to kind of point out. Precious mentioned it. At that point in time when at 25, and I had the desire to go back to school and all of that. I think it is important to take inventory in terms of the supports that you have in place. And thankfully, I was able to have that conversation with my wife, Precious, at the time, and say, hey, this is what I have a desire to do. How can we make it happen? And to have someone who was supportive so that we could set a plan, and make it work, because it did take a lot of sacrifice, as she mentioned. And I say that because a lot of times, we think of when we think about career exploration or career choices, we think about it just in that at that 5, 10, 15, maybe 20-year-old range. It's something that I decide or I think about what I want to do as a career early on. And then by the time I'm in my 20s, that decision is set in stone. For some of us, that's the way that we think about it. But the reality is, in my own path, like I said, it was a winding road, as we saw with the questions. But nevertheless, at 25, whenever that clarity came in terms of what the pathway would be, then it's like, all right, the next step was to let's set a plan to see what we can do to make it happen. Let's resource, let's asset map, let's make a determination in terms of what this would look like in order to progress forward. So I think for us, it was that first step of having the conversation, having a supportive partner. Someone who was willing to kind of work through that process with me, and then let's work the plan for what it is. One of the things that I always tell people, whether it's participants in programs that I've worked with, or grantees that I work with now, is that you have to have a plan for the work that you intend to do. It's one thing to think about the goal in terms of, hey, I want to work in public policy. And it's easy to say that and look at it as the initial goal. And sometimes, if you look at that initial goal, one day I'll work in public policy, but you don't chunk it down into the procedural steps or a plan. It's just a wish. You have to be willing to plan it out in order to kind of work your way toward it. So in my own career kind of exploration of my own career pathway, it really started with that. But one of the things that I find with our communities a lot of times is that we don't know what the opportunities are. We don't know what options we have, and so for me, it was pretty clear because I knew that what I wanted to do involved me going back to college, and I was blessed in the I went back to school. A lot of those questions that I didn't even know to ask at the time were really answered in the classes that I ended up taking in college to pursue the career that I wanted. But for some of us, it's quite possible you don't know what the first step is. One of the goals or one of the resources that we have in our communities when we start talking about career exploration, because for some of us, you may be, 20, 25, 30, and you're not sure, am I doing what I want to do? Do I even know what I want to do? One of the resources that is in our community that a lot of times goes underutilized is the workforce development system itself, or it may be called a one-stop office. A few years back, I don't want to date myself too much, but I can remember growing up, it was the same office that we might have called the unemployment office, I'm really glad that we did away with that misnomer, because when you hear unemployment office, a lot of times you only think about it in terms of, hey, I only go here when I'm unemployed, or I need help with finding employment, or I need help with getting my unemployment check. And the reality is, whether it's called the Employment Commission, Unemployment Office, One Stop, American Job Center, and here in our area, it's called the NC Works Office. Whatever it's called in your area, their job and their purpose is to help you as you traverse your career, regardless of what phase you're in. For some of us, we may have questions about what's possible, what opportunities are available to me. The one-stop office is a great place to start because they can help begin that conversation with you in terms of taking a survey of what your interests are. And a lot of times, from a career aspect, um, you know, uh, I had this at one time, and he talked to us about career exploration, and what he said was a lot of times we stifle ourselves because we settle for what we're good at, and because I'm good at a certain thing, we make the determination that that must be the job or the career that I'm supposed to go into. And the reality is, just because you're good at something, that may not be the career pathway for you. So it's important to take a survey and inventory in terms of what is it that I actually enjoy and want to do. The one stop office can help begin that conversation with you. And then once you have a clear path in terms of, all right, these are the things that I enjoy, these are the careers that actually possibly line up with those things, uh, then they can align you with the available training for you to actually help you achieve that career goal. And one of the things that I'll say about the one-stop office as well is that sometimes, well, not only do they help you with, as far as the training is concerned, but they actually can help you find payment, or find a way to pay for it. Sometimes they'll help you pay for it. But their whole job is to help you find not just a job, but hopefully find a career that's going to align with those things that you enjoy doing, those things that you desire to do, but also a career that's going to allow you to not only have a check that comes in, but something that's going to allow you to thrive and allow your family to thrive too. Because for me, from a career standpoint, Precious was right. At 25, that at that moment we had just had our son. A year or two before, and it did cause me to look at life in a different way, because it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me and my wife who could also take care of herself, but there was this child, who belonged to me and my wife, that I needed to be able to provide for. But I also wanted to be an example for, in terms of, hey, this is what's possible. And one of the things that I haven't talked about a lot here, but for me, going back to school and kind of beginning this walk that I started down, also a big part of it was really about legacy building and wanting to build something for those who are coming up behind me, that they can look at as an example. Because for many of us in our communities, we don't have a history of, professionalism, or individuals who have these professional careers. We may not have a history or a family history of, being college educated or what have you. So for me, a big part of career exploration, or moving down, this career that I've been on, or this path that I've been on since about 25, really has been about changing the narrative, through my career choices, but also the career opportunities that I'm able to provide other people through education, outreach, and communication, as far as those things related to career development, or workforce development. So a big the career exploration piece is really identifying those resources in your community, and like I said, the one stop, it hands down, is probably the most valuable.
Thank you. Those are all very important points, because we know that according to the Federal Reserve, 40% of lower income Americans lost their jobs due to the coronavirus pandemic when it hit. And that data was shared early on. I can imagine that the numbers are increasing day by day as the world of work has changed. I feel overnight. I feel like there's a tremendous level of responsibility put on families, and the balancing act is a bit different than what it was months ago, earlier this year. So, with that being said, I plan on leveling up during this time. That's my plan. I think it's a great time to get the certification, get the
Yep.
degree, get whatever it is that you want. But I know that in our household, Antonio, oftentimes you do talk about the importance of trades or other job opportunities that we may not commonly think about, because we're always told, get the degree, here's your promised salary. By the way, how's that working out so far?
Right.
Go get your house with your white picket fence. That's what they would tell us in our day. Gone are those days. The trajectory is just different now, and the world of work is changing day by day. I feel like we sort of fast forwarded into this future world of work that we knew would be coming soon, but I feel like we are literally in it right now, especially since I've been in the tech space. Certainly the way that we're using technology has, I mean, it's through the roof. It's on the rise. We're using Zoom differently than what we would have been using it months ago. So, with all of that being said, what are some opportunities that we may not be paying attention to?
No, really great question. And just to kind of drive home the point you were making about, college being the way, I graduated from high school back in 2000. And I remember at the time, when my dad told one of his coworkers that, upon graduating, I would be attending the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. His coworker was extremely excited. It was like, oh man, it's gonna be great when he comes out. Just the fact that he went to UNC alone, he's gonna garner 60+ thousand dollars a year on his first job, and it's gonna be this great opportunity for him. It's gonna be great. And I did not earn 60 plus until 2015 maybe. So, just that idea that, college is it and that's the only way. It took a while for that to start panning out. But then the other side of that too is that, we're in the point in time we're in right now. We have seen kind of an explosion in terms of opportunity as far as the trades are concerned. One of the things that I've had the opportunity to really work on a regional level, has been the growth and expansion of apprenticeships. And when we start talking about trades, apprenticeship definitely is an opportunity for someone to learn a skill set that is going to not only put them in a position to be a high earner today, but really for their foreseeable future. We really started seeing an explosion in terms of the growth of apprenticeship probably about 2015. That last year of the Obama administration, there were a number of initiatives that were put forth from the federal government to really grow and expand apprenticeship by two and threefold within a set time frame. And since then, here, and I'll speak specifically here in our area in North Carolina, in Guilford County, I just in that time frame, I've seen an explosion in terms of apprenticeship and the conversation around apprenticeship. Before I started working in the federal government, I actually worked local government back from about 2013 to 2015. And at that time frame, I ran a program that was based around workforce and occupational skills training, and the word apprenticeship was never spoken. And then, to see it now where you have, programs like the Guilford Apprenticeship Program or initiative, and this really focused conversation here about what Guilford Works and our local workforce development board. It really has been great to see, because when we think about apprenticeship, and one of the things I really I'm excited about apprenticeship is because I think historically when we hear apprenticeship, we think about things like construction, we think of things like plumbing, we think about things like electricians. Now, don't get me wrong; those positions pay great. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to speak with an electrical apprenticeship program down in Charlotte. And those individuals were telling me after 18 to 24 months of training, which they're getting paid for the entire time, which that's one of the key components of an apprenticeship. As we think about training, if I go to college, unless I'm, a Mark Zuckerberg or someone like that who's actually working my career while I'm in college, odds are while you're in college, you're not getting paid. You're paying to get the education, but you're not necessarily getting paid at a level that's going to be kind of on par with the career that you're hoping to get into. With an apprenticeship, it's almost that whole idea is turned on its head, because you're getting paid an actual career wage while you're learning the trade that you're hoping that you're actually going to eventually become credentialed in. And you also have, because of it's an apprenticeship and the way apprenticeships are designed, you have, kind of these, as your knowledge grows, you have these guaranteed salary increases that are going to trigger as you learn, or you show that your skill set has grown to certain levels over the course of your apprenticeship. But I had the opportunity to speak to individuals who were going through an electrical trade apprenticeship, and they were telling me at the time that, hey, once I finish this, the opportunity for me to earn 60, 70, $75,000, really it's not unheard of, because that's almost like the standard for the type of work that they were doing. I had an opportunity to speak with apprentices in Virginia who were telling me, 2 months out of training, and they were earning six plus figures. And none of these individuals had gone to college. They had the opportunity to join an apprenticeship, an apprenticeable trade, and they utilized that to not only change the lives that they were experiencing, but really to set their families on a new pathway, because they were able to get similar exposures. So no, definitely the trades, and like I said, with apprentices, historically we think about them welding, construction based, things of that nature. But the cool thing about apprenticeships now is that they're expanding into a ton of kind of those non-traditional apprenticeship trades. I have programs right now that I've had the opportunity to work with who are doing apprenticeships in cybersecurity, who are doing apprenticeships in healthcare, who are doing apprenticeships in IT and programming, who are at the forefront of mechatronics, and advanced manufacturing. So there are a lot of things that apprenticeship isn't just kind of the plumber coming into your house and fixing drains and things like that anymore. It really is this cutting edge opportunity for individuals to actually gain some training that's not only going to provide a livable income down the road, but it's actually going to set you up and provide you a livable wage for you and your family right now. And once again, not to hammer it home too much, but this is where connecting with your local one stops, your local NC Works office is key, because they a lot of times know where those trainings are available. They can help you getting connected to those apprenticeship opportunities, so that you may, one of the things that former Labor Secretary Perez used to talk about as far as apprenticeship is concerned is he talked about it being college without the debt. And a lot of that, the reason for that is because you have many times a higher earning potential by going through an apprenticeship, without that college debt that a lot of us are wrestling once we kind of complete those degrees.
Awesome. That's all great information. Hopefully, we will get the bill to pass to forgive the loans for education. So I want to throw out there some other jobs to think about. Obviously, Amazon isn't going anywhere. Amazon is doing really well right now, even during the pandemic. Grocery stores aren't going anywhere. Online learning companies are great to consider. You can teach someone who's learning a foreign language, you can teach them English. So those are all great opportunities to bring in any amount of income into your household. So at this point, we're all wrestling with what is now being called working families. I think we were always working families, but for some reason, we want to emphasize the fact that we are working families, balancing so much at home with our kids. Many things that we were already doing, by the way, but we do know that with the online learning that it has really added another layer of responsibilities for all of us, including the fact that you're providing meals that you did not have to provide before. Even something as simple as that creates a situation where you have to find a way to find a viable income. And I truly understand that. So I want to encourage everyone to think about the fact that there are flexible options. There are work from home opportunities. There are remote opportunities. Lots of things that you can start to consider for yourself. I want to encourage you to dig in, to be open and keep looking and to keep dreaming. Don't let the pandemic stop you from what it is that you already had in mind. When we started the live today, we went through the activity of what Antonio and I wanted to do from age 5 all the way up to 40. And with that activity, I just want you all to keep in mind, and I want to remind you that I actually stopped my full time career job. Why did I do that? I did that because of the demands at home, because I need to be able to take care of home first and do all the things that are necessary to get us safely through the pandemic, to protect my sanity at the same time while I'm doing it, because it is absolutely impossible to do a million and one things. So I wanted to be honest about that and walk away from my career for a little minute to get all of my ducks in a row. Now, I realize that everyone cannot do that. I get that and I understand that. But what I do want to encourage you is to really sit down and develop a plan. What was nice about getting into the situation that we're in right now in our family is that we were actually in total agreement for the first time ever, really. No, really, it was just it just made sense. That's all I'm saying. And we sat down and we looked at our budget. So you do need to consider your budget. We mentioned again just how important it is to think about the viable income. What is a viable income, people? It is how you're going to be able to maintain the lifestyle that you desire for your family. So we're not saying go do risky business right now, but we are saying take care of yourself, take care of your household. And here's another key thing that I want to mention, and for Antonio and I to talk a little bit about, which is why we're doing the Intentional Parenting Online Summit. Guys, your children are watching your every move. I promise you they are watching you. How do I know? Because I have a 13-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter who is on my trail for every little thing that I do. Even my career. I thought my children were not paying attention
Right.
to the decisions that I was making. But when my daughter was able to articulate every detail of what she observed, it blew me away. So I want you all to just be mindful that you have little ones. Maybe it's one little one, two little ones, or whatever. They are watching your every move and they're learning skills along the way as well. And I'm just proud to be able to stand in front of my children and be an example of actually what I hope that they will take with them for the rest of their lives. That this is an example that if you're at a crossroads between your career and keeping your family together, that you have to make the most important decision at that point. So I'm praying for all of the families because I know it's difficult. You have difficult decisions to make daily, and I know it, and it's not easy. So I want to acknowledge that as we're having this conversation. And I won't take over Antonio's talk because he's the one who I invited to be the guest for today. And I'll open it up if you want to share a little bit more with the families in terms of what you think about how our kids are watching us every minute of every day, literally right now.
No, no, thank you again. I think that point is particularly key, particularly in this moment where for some of us, we're all at home. Our kids are learning from home. Some of us may be working from home, but in most cases, we're spending a lot more time around each other than we might have been doing prior to kind of pre-COVID, as I kind of like to mark the time now before March. And so, because of that, their eyes are on us even more than they might have been previously. And one of the things, while I will say, when I talk about my own career path, and while what I had preferred if it was like a straight line, and by the time I was at 25, I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, and and I didn't have to kind of take some of these curves. I think the easy answer would be like, yeah, it would have been better if that would have been the case. But in reality, I'm actually kind of glad that it happened the way that it did, because you know with it happening the way that it did, my son was able to see me, reverse course and make those sacrifices. Not only me, but my wife as well. Our kids were able to see us make those sacrifices for the sake of bettering our family and our opportunity. My son and my daughter were both able to see me walk across and graduate, not once, but twice, with a bachelor's and a master's degree. They've been able to see the work that we've been able to do in terms of not only, kind of progressing down our own career path, but also, really the work that we've done in terms of trying to help others who are seeking to do the same thing. So I think it's key because that is a push. It is a push that for me, it was the ultimate push because, the reality is, 18, 19, 20-year-old Antonio, I wasn't as focused as I needed to be. 25, 26, 27-year-old Antonio, because I had a family, because I had a child, everything took on a whole new meaning. I did not have the opportunity to fail. I didn't have the luxury of failure for a second or third time because I needed to get it right because my son was watching me, my daughter's watching me, and so that for me was a driving force. I couldn't afford to get it wrong because I needed to be able to provide for them the way that I wanted to. My wife and I wanted to provide for them. So I'm not saying that it has to be your children, or if you don't have children, or whatever your situation is. But what I am saying is, for you as an individual, I would definitely say, find whatever your driving force is that's going to push you towards success, and let that be kind of the thing that guides you, or one of the things that guides you along the way as you're kind of taking this step down your career pathway, whether it be the one that you're currently on or a new one that you may be exploring. Another thing that I'll say, because I know we're getting short on time, is that, for me, like I said before, I was blessed to have a partner who, when I had that conversation with her, she was receptive to it and was able to work with me as we developed a plan together in terms of being the examples that we wanted to be for our family and putting our family in a position that we wanted it to be in. So I'm thankful for that. For you, I would definitely say find someone. One of the things that's been repeated a number of times over the course of the Intentional Parenting Summit has been, find that community, develop your village. If you should be associating with individuals who are able to kind of hold you accountable, but also be in those times when you need that extra push or you need that support, they should be able to be a support system for you. Because I'll be honest with you, if you're reversing course and trying to find a new career path, or you're saying, hey, I'm going to change up what I've been doing for the sake of going back to school or finding training that's going to put my family in a better position down the road. I know us having the conversation now, and I probably glossed over a lot of stuff, and but I don't want to give the appearance that it's just an easy, like, regular, day, or a walk in the park. It is not. It does take work, but I promise you, it is worth it. So I'm a big proponent of every day you should be getting close to what it is you want to be tomorrow, even if you can't accomplish it all in one day. So for me, I understood that I wanted to go into public policy. The first thing for me, was like, let me learn more about this. Let me learn more about education policy. Let me go find the schools that I can possibly attend that are going to equip me with the skill set I need to be able to be productive in this field. So, and with all of that, it's about being that example. Like, I'm so glad that I've had the experience, and I even have experience even more now to do a lot of this stuff in front of my kids. Because for us, for many in our community, you may not have a family legacy of this being kind of the way forward. So it's important that, for us to establish that, we need to start doing it now, and we need to have the open conversations. We need to be able to be the example. We need to be able to show them, because I don't know what my son or my daughter may have to deal with in their own career path down the future, as far as education, or trying to figure out what choices to make as far as a career is concerned. I hope and pray that, not only will continue to have the conversations that we're already having, but that they'll be able to also draw back on what they've seen their mother and father do in our own career walks. And so I would definitely encourage the families that are out there now, the parents that are out there, to be honest about what your walk is. And if that's, hey, I need to do an evaluation today to figure out what my next steps are, do the evaluation. If it's, hey, I need to build the village, build the village. But I would implore and I would challenge you all to say today that each day I'm going to do something that's going to get me closer to figuring out what my career goal, or accomplishing my career goal. I want to do something that I didn't do yesterday each day. And ultimately, it may not happen tomorrow. 9 times out of 10, it won't. But I promise you, if you stay the course, you work the plan, you'll get to where you want to be.
All right, great words. And I want to repeat something that you said. I love your words when you said I did not have the opportunity to fail. And I feel like you've definitely exemplified that as a father in the household. I just feel like, as Black males specifically, I want to reiterate those words because I feel like it comes from a very deep place. So I want to just highlight that point. I want to also highlight a comment that's being made by Kim Irby. She said she thinks our kids need virtual learning skills. Um, and they need to be able to engage with their teachers more right now during the pandemic. Of course, we are relegated to teaching and learning online. And I do want to just shameless plug here, right? I'm just going to put plug in right now. I am working on developing a platform to make it possible for mentors to connect with young people. So, if we're able to successfully do this, I don't see why we cannot extend that opportunity to teachers to also follow our model in order to reach our youth in a successful way. So, I'll talk about that at a later date. That's to come, but I do want to stick a shameless plug in there to talk about it. But Antonio, whenever we think about our kids, right, because we focus on the parents, we talk to our parents to links in at this point. I think you have the point. Let's talk about the kids a little bit. What do you think our kids should be focusing on right now?
From a career aspect, I would definitely, for me, it's about exploration. It's about exposure. For if you, like I said, you look at, the path, the activity we did in the beginning. I think it wasn't until I was probably, 15, 20, even saw me, double up where I had the same grasp or something at least remotely related. And to that point, it's all over. I think that's okay. I think a lot of times, in today, we have this mindset that decision needs to be made now. And the reality is, for many of our families, for many, in our youth especially, your exposure is somewhat limited. So, in terms of goals and from a career aspect, your desires are going to be limited because they're going to be impacted by what you've been exposed to. So I think we need to keep an open mind in terms of just what are we exposing our children to as it relates to careers. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier that I wanted to double back on when you talked about those different career opportunities, like at Amazon or grocery stores and things of that nature. I was at a conference not too long ago. Well, a couple years ago, and there was an individual from the National Restaurant Educators Association Foundation or something like that, but something with the National Restaurant um, Association, and they talked about um, individuals working in fast food. And it was one of those because we've all heard the stories about working at McDonald's and whether that is a desirable career goal or what have you. But he made mention of the fact that there are so many different aspects to working in fast food. Our mind immediately goes to the cook or the cashier because either that's what we see when we go, or maybe that's what we did when we were in our teenage years and we were working in fast food. But the reality is there are so many different aspects that require a high skill set, a high level of knowledge, that pay amazing salaries, even within fast food. That it's just we have to be willing to open our minds just a little bit because we may see the one thing we see when we drive at the McDonald's, we see the drive-through and kind of what that entails, but there are so many different components that support and make that even possible. IT is a part of fast food. IT is a part of healthcare. There's so many different things that you could be looking at. So it's almost one of those things now. Early on when I would have these conversations and I would have someone say, "Hey, I want to work." I remember I did a talk with an elementary school not too long ago, and a little girl told me when she grew up she wanted to work at Bojangles. And if you would have called me a few years ago, I'd have been like, "Yeah, let's talk about something else." But no, the reality is, why not? Why not work at Bojangles? But let's see what you could possibly do. with Bojangles. Not that doesn't mean that you're just working at the drive-through window. So I think for our kids, it's about really for parents, let's expose our children as much as possible. One of the things that I know for me that we've done as far as our own children is when we see our children pick up in an interest, we do everything we can possibly to support it. AJ, our 13-year-old son, he's talked about wanting to do programming and wanting to get into video game design. So, my wife obviously having an IT background, Precious has exposed him to that. But, hey, if you tell me you have an interest in it, you can almost guarantee that, around Christmas time, birthdays, or what have you, you're going to get something related to that interest that you're telling me. So, for Christmas, AJ got 3 different books that are designed for teenagers who want to go into programming. So it's teaching him how to program so that, one, he has the luxury right now. If he realizes once he gets into it a little bit, he doesn't like it, it's okay. No harm done. Let's find the next interest. But if he does gravitate toward it, he's already building a foundational level of knowledge that's going to propel him as he continues down his path. Our daughter, over the course of this COVID experiment or the pandemic, rather, and everyone being at home, she's really picked up on this artsy, design type passion. So we're pushing that where she's drawing. We've gotten her drawing kits and all of this, and we're talking about what type of careers could be related to that, whether it be architecture or interior design or fashion or what have you. But we're having the conversations where we're trying to pick up on their interests now, so that once they're, approaching, high school graduation and college, if that's the career path or the path for them, they can be in a position where they're better informed and they're more knowledgeable about the decisions and the choices that they're making as far as a career is concerned than I can say I might have been at that same age.
Thank you for that. So, according to what you just shared, I want to sort of bullet point a few very important details. One is that we provide age appropriate advice with our organization. We're working with fourth graders through 12th graders. So, we have college mentors who aren't far removed from their age who can sort of talk to them about how they're navigating life and continue to be relevant to our youth who are closer in age. And I think that's really important. Also to provide the resources that the students need according to their learning style is super important. And we ran across the challenge of wanting to deliver things online, but realizing that, you may have a fourth grader who's still struggling to read. So being extremely visual could be helpful for that child. Having a high schooler who is a personality showing high leadership skills, then we may need to deliver information in a way where that student is being challenged and can get engaged and active in some of the decision making, even with our organization. So, all of those things, we have to keep that in mind. I will say that I've learned a lot in the same manner that our children are watching us. I've been watching my children online, so I've learned a lot about what their true interests might be and what they are actually gravitating to. So I found that my children tend to really like whenever the activities that they have are highly engaging and interactive where they're able to provide feedback. They're not going to sit there and want to be lectured online all day long. So we have to really meet our youth where they are, but we also have to provide those adults who can tap in and help them where they are online, where it's relatable. So all of that is very important. I also want to add something that I think is really important, and I apologize for the light that keeps hitting my face. It's really disturbing me, but I can't stop it right now. What we did with our son was put him in a program at A&T. It's called the Verizon Innovative Program under A&T's. What school is it under, Antonio? Is it under the business school? It may be under the business school or under the IT department. However, all of this to say, we've gone outside of our own resources. So it's great. Mom knows everything about web development. I could teach my child to code. In fact, I started that way. I taught him what I could teach him, or as much as he could tolerate, coming from me as his mother. And then we hit the ceiling, as we all do. Our children really love to go out on their own and demonstrate that they got it. And we decided that he needed to have his own space and have an outlet. So we chose the Verizon Innovative Program. And I really want to talk about how proud I am of how the Verizon Innovative Program has pivoted well during the pandemic. Our son already fully participated in a program over the summertime. It was exceptionally well. There was a great format. He looked forward to sitting at his computer every Saturday, which really intrigued me. And I asked him, well, what made you want to do it? Because, I thought that he would, sort of shy away or not really want to do it because it was yet another online meeting, but it was the projects that they were doing that he was gravitating to. It was the activities that they were doing that attracted him. And then I want to also just put a shout out to his coach, who has been calling him weekly, talking to him on the phone, which is incredible as well, because it's like he did not miss a beat with that program. And I will say, with Shield Mentor Program, we struggled with that. I'll be honest. Going into the pandemic, we did what most other organizations would do. We immediately went on Zoom, and then we realized that our students were experiencing Zoom fatigue. At that point, they did not want to meet us online, unfortunately. So what I learned by watching my son interact with a well put together program is sort of what our youth are looking to gravitate toward, and what they're looking to get out of yet another online delivery. And I know that this is about careers, and what we're looking to do is bring in our college mentors to do role playing and deliver short videos on certain careers that our youth may be interested in. So it's like they'll watch sort of like a skit, and then we'll get together for a live event on Saturday and talk more about seeking a career, give them tips and tools that they might be able to use. And then we're going to spend time with them the following week in what's called mentoring circles, where it's a smaller group where they can really talk about everything that they're learning, any questions that they may have. So that's another sneak preview of what I'm looking to do online. But I want to be honest and talk about what inspired me and motivated me, and also gave me hope that our youth are going to want to continue to do all the things that they were doing in person, even if it's online. All right, so we are well over an hour, and I really want to thank everyone who has been listening. I want to open it up, Antonio, in case there's anything else that you want to share before we close out with our listeners. I know you also have a resource that you want to leave everyone with. Listen, if you're not struggling with a job, reach out to someone who is. Share this video, share this resource, because somebody needs it, and we need to be there for one another. I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to tune in. Thank you for your comments, and I'm looking forward to how we're going to show up in the community together. So with that being said, I want to open it up if Antonio has anything else that he wants to share with you.
Thanks again for everyone who's been with us over the course of this conversation. I think it is a timely and an important conversation because of where we see ourselves in terms of employment and employment opportunities. One of the things to just highlight the real impact of COVID as it relates to employment for individuals nationwide at this point is that if you think about it, prior to COVID, from a historical standpoint, I think the most we had ever seen in terms of the highest unemployment number we've ever seen in a given week was somewhere in the 200,000, 215,000 range. Since March, I don't think that the unemployment number on a weekly basis has been any lower than 750,000 new unemployment insurance claims um, since COVID hit mid March. So you're talking about on a week by week basis, 800,000 plus individuals filing brand new unemployment claims. So when we start thinking about career and career exploration, it is a timely conversation. Some of you may have been impacted either through layoffs or slowdowns as far as COVID is concerned on your own jobs, or you may know someone. And it was, while we definitely, our hearts go out to those who've been impacted, I'm a huge believer that in those moments when one job is may have laid you off, or it seems like one door is closed, that the opportunity for the next door to open is right there. And one of the things I'll say is, when we start thinking about what the next step is from a career standpoint, really exploring your options is key, and not just settling for what I've always done with the expectation of getting a different outcome. I think many of us we've worked jobs, or we are may even currently be working a job that we just don't like. And not only that we don't like, but it's not paying us at the level we know we want or desire to be able to support our family. So I'm a huge believer that if you want something different, sometimes you have to do something different. And exploring your career opportunities for some individuals is something different. Having that conversation with your local NC Works, if you're in North Carolina, your NC Works office, is something different. And the opportunity to explore a new career path is something that I hope and pray is something that's in your future. And definitely networking is important as well. And that's the next point I was going to mention. One of the things I'm huge on those themes, those threads that have kind of gone through, a book or a session, or in this case, a summit. And one of the things that I promise you, if you go back, if you've already looked at the previous sessions, maybe you've picked up on this as well. And if you haven't, I definitely would encourage you to go back and look at those previous sessions, because one of the things that's been a repeated theme over the course of these 6, 7 weeks so far has been the need to build our network, the need to build our village. None of us can do it on our own. None of us can do it by ourselves. None of us have all the answers, but definitely finding ways and opportunities to network with others in the community, and others in your village who support and are like-minded in terms of moving forward as individuals and as parents and as families, is going to be key in helping you in your own career progressions as well. But definitely, as far as for those who are in Guilford County, like I said, you have the NC Works office. There's one in High Point. There's also another in Greensboro on Meadowview Road. You can definitely find more information via the Guilford Works website. I believe it's www.guilfordworks.org. After this session, I'll actually post it in the comment section for anyone that's interested. But regardless of where you are, because obviously we have the opportunity to reach people outside of our local area, I would encourage you to figure out or find out who your local workforce development board. Everyone should have one. It's required. It's a part of the workforce system. Wherever you are, there should be a local workforce development board that can put you in touch with your local One Stop, your local American Job Center, or your local training opportunities that don't necessarily have to come out of your pocket, but that are designed to put you on a career pathway that's not only going to change your life, but the life outcomes for you, your family, and hopefully your friends as well. As you gain and you progress, hopefully they'll see your example. Hopefully they'll see the trail that you're blazing for them, and they'll follow as well. I've seen it done. One of the things, Precious and I talk about a lot, especially when we started down this path that we've been on since around 25, I guess, is the fact that we want to blaze a trail that others who are coming behind us can follow. And one of the things that I will say in the last, I guess, 13, 15 years that we've been doing this is that I've seen others follow us down this trail. And if you haven't been blessed to the point where you have that trail blazed for you ahead of time, then it may be up to you to be the trailblazer in order to change the trajectory and the story for you and your family. And career pathway is definitely a way to do it. Career exploration is a key component in doing just that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm proud to call you my husband, and you have taught me so much just listening. Although I've been married to you the entire time, I'm just truly inspired by what you're choosing to share today with our families, because we are just in times that none of us could have really prepared for. Um, I just must say, I just didn't see the pandemic coming, and it really knocked a lot of us off of our tracks as far as what we thought we may be doing. But I know that there's something better on the other side of this pandemic. So find a silver lining, level up, do all the things that you need to do it for your family, do it for yourself. I do want to reiterate that the Shield Mentor Program can serve families outside of our local area. Now that we're online, we can reach any family anywhere. So I really do invite you to join us. If you have not already checked out our website, please do. It's www.shieldmentor.org. We already have a lot of resources available to you on our website. I'm going to invite those who are listening on my personal Facebook page to hop into the Intentional Parenting Online Summit. The remainder of the sessions will only happen within the private group. I'm just out here sharing a little bit. Over the holidays, we didn't have our guest speakers lined up. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, and I'm looking forward to a successful New Year. We want to be with you through the new year. We're going to deliver this until January 30th. So come on into the Facebook group, join us. If you're already in the group, I want to invite you to invite other families. We're already very close to 175. I think we can get to 200 rather easily. It only takes you inviting someone, and we may surprise ourselves by building a even bigger and broader community. We have a network of those who are in the field as well. Our guest speakers run their own organizations, and bring incredible resources to the conversation throughout the world. So that's another wonderful benefit to joining the community. We're looking to have honest conversations. We're looking to be authentic with you. So I hope that you enjoy what the program that we're bringing over 12 weeks. We're doing this for an entire 12 weeks. And then we're going to turn around and do it all over again for your children, because we believe in the success of families. All right. So with that being said, you know how I close out. Remember that you are your child's best advocate. Have a great evening.
You've invested tons of time into your child, but you don't have to do it alone. Does your 4th through 12th grade child need an outlet to focus on how to reach their highest potential in school, in life, and beyond? Here at the Shield Mentor Program, our college and professional mentors are waiting to serve you through our Shield online community, a place for parents and youth with the same interests to connect in a fun and safe virtual environment. From helpful parenting information to social and emotional support for your child and everything in between, join us to connect with others who live near and far in a much-needed space to get the help your child needs for their future success through our mentorship and leadership programs. It's never been easier for you to connect your child with the resources they need. Join us today at www.shieldmentor.org to connect with like-minded parents looking to see their child succeed.